Hello, everyone, and welcome to Applications Manager's free training series. Thank you all for taking your time out and being here today. Today's topic, which is how to build a seamless customer experience with digital experience monitoring. So, what is digital experience monitoring? Today, enterprises own and maintain a website or a web application to interact with customers, ensure brand visibility, and establish their digital presence on the World Wide Web. Well-designed websites help you attract and capture the attention of your audience. A poorly maintained one, however, guarantees frustrated visitors. Today, people are ruthless and seek instant gratification, which is why they become impatient when they don't see results immediately, and they turn to the next best thing, leaving you high and dry. Therefore, in order to maintain a good rapport with your visitors, a digital experience monitoring strategy must be set up in place. So, what is digital experience monitoring? Digital experience monitoring is the process of the performance analysis to ensure seamless end user journey by optimizing the operational experience with the employment of various monitoring services. A good digital experience monitoring strategy consists of application discovery, tracing, and diagnostics feature, application analytics feature, and a website monitoring feature. But we should all aim for greatness, and a great website monitoring strategy consists of a real browser monitoring feature, which is synthetic transaction monitoring, a real user monitoring feature, application monitoring feature, in addition to the website monitoring feature. If you're familiar with Applications Manager, you know that in order to implement these features, you don't need a separate tool since Applications Manager has them all in a single console. Let me walk you through the agenda for today's session. In part 1, we'll be looking at how you can measure the performance of your website effectively. In part 2, we'll be looking at how you can detect and resolve website issues with synthetic monitoring feature. In part 3, we'll be looking at how you can leverage the real user behavior patterns to understand the website performance. And in the final part, we'll be looking at how you can optimize the web page performance and maintain a brand reputation. Knowing that, let's move on to part 1, how to measure the performance of your website effectively. According to an article published in browserstack.com, 47% of consumers expect a web page to load in 2 seconds or less. 40% of people abandon a website when it takes more than 3 seconds to load, which means that 1 second delay in page response can result in 7% of reduction in conversions. Knowing that any kind of slowness or unavailability of your websites could result in potential loss of revenue and customers. As an enterprise or a business owner, that's the last thing you want to happen. Frequent downtimes and slowness can make your site lose credibility among loyal customers, as well as create a bad first impression for your first-time visitors. Let's look at some of the causes that is behind the website slowness and downtime. First up, we have scheduled maintenance, which is a temporary period for which the application or the web page is offline for updates, backup, and maintenance. We have data center problems and server errors, which means that the server is not unable to connect with the web page. We have bugs in code, which can cause errors and causes the page to not load. We have high traffic to websites. Sometimes during the festivals or during the holidays, there may be high traffic to your websites, which may cause it to crash. And sometimes the hackers may attempt to hack your website, which may cause it to slow down or even crash. So, which is why you need to have Applications Manager to prevent all these problems. With Applications URL Monitor, you can monitor the website's availability and response time. You can ensure 24/7 website availability with it. And when you find out that the websites are unavailable, you'll get instant notification whenever the site is down. You can also recheck the website status to identify and eliminate false positives, validate the HTTP requests, and track the website response time, along with split ups such as DNS time, connection time, first byte time, and last byte time. Here, the important metrics that you need to monitor are the response times and the first byte time, which is the time taken for the server to process the first byte of information or the first byte of request. You can also get a root cause diagnosis for quicker troubleshooting with our root cause analyzer feature. Now, let me show you how it looks like in our console. So this is the Applications Manager console. To add a new monitor, go to New Monitor, Add New Monitor, and under Web Server and Services, you will find the HTTP URLs. Here, give it a name. Let me add Zoho and add a URL address. Now specify the polling interval and the timeout. Under HTTP configurations, you can choose the form submission method, whether it's post or get. If you have any sensitive data in your URL, you can use the post type. And if you choose the post type, you need to specify the payload type as well and specify the request parameters. If you have any authentication, specify the authentication credentials such as the username or password. If you already have a credential listed in the console, you can select it from the list. And if you want to choose the SAML ADFS authentication, you can do so. You can also set up alerts if the response code is above 200. Specify it according to your requirements. And if the monitor detects any error, retry immediately to verify error. If you want, you can enable this option. Specify the user agent, whether it's the browser or the OS. Specify the custom headers. And if you want a SSL version, you can enable it as well. We have a new feature to content check, wherein you can check for any content, like, for example, I'm choosing monitor and add the URL monitor. So when you add the monitor, you will be able to view the monitor in monitors, and under monitors, you will be able to see it in the URL monitor. Click on any of the entries and you'll see it. You have the response time over here and you have the split up over here. So the DNS time is the time taken for the DNS to connect to the web page, and the connection time is the total connection time for it to connect to the server and give back the request. The first byte time, as I mentioned before, it is the time taken for the server to process the first byte of information. And the last byte time is the time taken for the server to process the last byte of information. You also get information about the page size and the page size change. If you want to monitor the sequence of URLs, you need to add a separate monitor for it. Go to New Monitor, and under New Monitor, select the URL sequence. Here, you can either add the sequence by generating a HAR file and importing it, or you can use the Web Transaction Recorder to add a monitor. Since the Web Transaction Recorder is going to be deprecated in the following months, I recommend you to import a HAR file. So, importing a HAR file is extremely easy. You just have to click on Inspect, and under Inspect, go to Network and start recording it. When you record it, all the information will be stored over here. And if you want to export the HAR file, just right-click on it and save all as HAR with content. When you save it, it will be saved as a HAR file. To add the monitor, click on Import HAR file, choose a display name, and choose the file. So I already have a file, and upload file. Here you'll get the URL list along with basic details about it. If you want to add an alert configuration or a basic authentication, go to advanced and you can add it over here. So that is it. You just have to add the monitor. So the monitor has been successfully configured. To look at the monitor, you just have to go to monitors, and under monitors, you can find it under HTTP URL sequence. Here you will be able to view details such as the monitor information, the availability, the response time split up, and the response time of individual URLs. You'll also be able to monitor the URL sequences within. When you click on it, you'll be able to view the underlying information such as the DNS time and the split up of response times. So that is it about the website monitoring feature. Let's move on to the next part, which is how you can detect and resolve website issues with synthetic monitoring. Even though you will be able to verify if the website is loading properly or not, there are a few things that require more effort than just plain website monitoring. For example, if you're using an app and a social media networking site, you would want it to show results as soon as you search your friend's name on the search bar. Similarly, when you click on follow or add friend button, you would expect it to work. Likewise, visitors on your web application want the buttons and other interactive elements to work. This is why it's imperative that you ensure everything works perfectly as it's supposed to before it affects your end users. And that's where synthetic transaction monitoring comes into place. So synthetic transaction monitoring helps you emulate and run an application to analyze the performance from an end user's perspective. You can test the performance of the critical user parts on your website by recording these complex workflows using the website transaction recorder. You can dynamically track the website availability and performance from the end user's location. One of the main advantages here is that you can track your website performance from any geographical location. And you can also ensure that your website is meeting your business objectives and service level agreements. It provides a line of sight on the service level agreements. Now let us see how Applications Manager's real browser monitoring facilitates the synthetic transaction monitoring. So as you can see here, this is the workflow of an e-commerce website. First, you will log in, you'll do a product search, and then you'll add it to the shopping cart. And when you've added to the shopping cart, you'll need to pay. And when you pay, you go to the payment gateway. And after you pay, you log out. This is the typical workflow of an e-commerce site. When you perform synthetic transaction monitoring, you will be able to identify any errors in this workflow, such as if there's an error in the payment gateway or in the logout form, you will be able to identify it. So here you can simulate the business critical processes with the help of Selenium-based scripting of tests. So the first step involves a web transaction recorder in which you can record critical transaction. Every action that we perform while recording, be it hovering, clicking on an element, all of it will be saved in a Selenium-based script file. You can also run checks from real browsers such as Chrome or Firefox. Applications Manager then opens up a real browser in which it plays up the recorded transaction again to identify if any error occurs. During the playback, data collection takes place and all the performance metrics are then published on the monitor dashboard. It also lets you take screenshots during the playback if there are any errors. And the main advantage of the synthetic transaction monitoring in Applications Manager is that you can test it from different locations. To facilitate the monitoring in multiple locations, we make use of end-user monitoring agents. Let us say you are hosting an event in your office and you've created a registration form for the same. All employees need to register for the event. which means employees from all your branch offices should be able to do so without any hassle. To test this critical workflow of filling the form and successfully registering the event, you can use Applications Manager's Real Browser Monitoring feature. For that, first you'll need to install the EUM agents in all your branch offices, which then sends the information to the Applications Manager. This way, you can check if the workflow functions without any errors in all the desired locations. Applications managers, end user monitoring agents basically provide a greater visibility into the user experience and help detect potential problems with ease. The EUM agents can be installed in multiple branch offices in different cities or in the systems of your end users. All you need is a secure HTTPS connection between the agent and the applications manager server. Let me show you how you can add a real browser monitor and the metrics that you can monitor with the real browser monitor. To add, go to new monitor, add new monitor, and under add new monitor, you'll find real browser monitor. So here you can see that you can either add a real browser monitor by importing Selenium test case, or you can do it with the web transaction recorder. But since the web transaction recorder will be deprecated, I recommend using a Selenium test case instead. Importing a Selenium test case is easy. You can do it so with the Chrome WebDriver itself, or you can use the web transaction recorder itself. So for the web transaction recorder, this is how you need to download an add-on, and to create a new real browser monitor, click on create new real browser monitor, add your URL and start recording. So it opens the web page where you can record your experience. Now you just click on preview and save. Here it gives you an option to add it as a URL sequence monitor as well. Give a name. Click on next. And you will be able to create a real browser monitor. To view the real browser monitor, go to monitors, and under monitors, click on the real browser monitor. Here you will get information such as the EUM agent, information about EUM agents, wherein you'll see the average page load time, transaction time, availability, and health. You will also see the steps performed during this process. And by clicking on the agent, you'll see the performance overview, wherein you can see it in a graphical format as well, about the average page load time, the transaction time, etc., the steps performed, and also the screenshots, like I mentioned before. You can see the screenshots along with the resources and the size of the resources being used in the web page, and the time taken for each resource to load. So here you can see that you can check out the redirection time, the secure connection time, blocking time, domain lookup time, network latency time, duration, the connection time, and the download time. It will also be shown in a graphical format over here. So what are the synthetic transaction monitoring use cases? First one, comparing your performance to your competition. With synthetic transaction monitoring, you can set up benchmark scenarios to see how your applications are performing over time. You can also benchmark your company's performance against top competitors within a certain historical time frame or a specific graphical region. This approach will help you establish a strategic outlook and preserve the competitive advantage in the marketplace. Second one is testing new features. So since testing is an important and an early stage of application development, synthetic monitoring provides a set of baselines and thresholds that will pinpoint any obstacle one's likely to face while using the application in real time. So if you have any new feature coming out or if you've made a new enhancement, you can test it out with the help of synthetic transaction monitoring. Third one is the measuring of performance impact in third-party applications. So today's websites increasingly rely on third-party features such as ads or cards or customer reviews or social networking, SEO add-ons, etc. If there's a weak link in the chain or one or more of these elements are not working properly, it can adversely impact your site. Synthetic transaction monitoring can greatly assist in helping you monitor your third-party applications while also alerting you to potential or real performance degradation and downtime impacts. This helps tremendously in providing a line of sight on your service level agreements in order to hold the third-party vendors accountable. And the last test case is finding the issues before your customers do. Synthetic monitoring helps you meet up and set up baseline tests in order to measure the way your customers will interact with your websites, APIs, or mobile apps. This type of testing can provide a direct feedback on the performance degradation or availability issues. It will also help your team locate the root cause, engage the right experts, and fix the issues before they impact the end users. Now let's move on to the third part of today's session, which is how you can leverage real user behavior patterns to understand web performance. So first off, what is real user monitoring? Real user monitoring refers to capturing users' interactions with the help of a website in real time. This helps you analyze how your end users perceive your website. So as businesses keep expanding, they tend to go global, and when they do, their websites are accessed from various devices and multiple locations. Consistency is key, and it is imperative that you offer a consistent experience to all your end users. That is the ideal scenario, and the reality is that it can be affected by external factors such as latency, operational hiccups, slow ISPs, and trouble in the backend of apps. What works in one browser may not work in another. This is where RUM or real user monitoring comes in handy. It helps you see why your website is slow in a particular region, identify if you've overlooked any issues with your page load time, find out where and why a user abandoned a page, etc. All this information enables you to optimize your website performance. To understand why RUM is more essential, we must understand the drawbacks of synthetic transaction monitoring. First one is that it does not align with reality. Synthetic monitoring has one weakness. It does not align with reality due to the fact that the nature of the traffic used for synthetic testing is not organic, but it's synthetic and isn't truly representative of real user experience at any given time. Its outcome and performance are rather predictable. Because synthetic monitoring uses simulated actions, it does not predict the actions of real life customers. Second one is the time taken for the incident resolution is high. When you receive complaints from end users in real time, Synthetic monitoring data does not tell about what the end user was actually doing or experiencing. You would have to painstakingly analyze the performance for every business critical transaction, create scripts for synthetic testing in order to uncover the possible issue, and this can sometimes be time consuming. You get a narrow view of performance. Synthetic monitoring can't match the rich diversity of performance variables that exist in the real world. Because you are not monitoring actual users, you aren't really getting any data on how your product is used in the real world. All you have is simply a narrow view of the application performance. So, how does RUM work in Applications Manager? To facilitate the data collection and reporting, RUM's agent is deployed in the server where the web application is hosted. Following that, a small JavaScript snippet is generated by Applications Manager to be placed in the header or a footer part of the HTML code of the web application that you want to track. Upon loading, the JavaScript snippet accesses the code that collects the performance data and constantly transmits it to the RUM agent. The RUM agent communicates this between this JavaScript code and the Applications Manager web client, which visually depicts the captured data. So how can you perform real user monitoring in Applications Manager? So you can analyze the front-end performance across various geographies. Proactively analyze how the front-end performance of the websites varies across the various geographies, ISPs, browsers, and devices to ensure a hassle-free digital experience to your end users. You can become aware of the user satisfaction levels using Aptix scores. You will be able to isolate web transactions that contribute to poor user experiences of the applications. You will gain a comprehensive insight about the domain resources and user session. You will be able to identify the JavaScript errors instantly to prevent users from reporting service errors. And you will also be able to analyze and compare the impact of any new changes made in the site and how it has affected the end user. So let me show you how it looks like in the UI. To add a real user monitor, go to new monitor, add new monitor. And over here, click on real user monitor. You'll need to specify a display name followed by the website URL. I'm using the same URL. The Aptix threshold, which will give you the Aptix score. For example, it should be specified in MS, which is milliseconds. So I'm giving 200 milliseconds. You need to select the application framework type based on what framework the application uses, whether it's traditional or a single page application. If it's a traditional application, you can track the AJAX call and also the cross-domain AJAX calls. If you want to track it, enable the option. You can also specify the domains to exclude and the user agents to exclude. Click on this option to track the resource performance and also monitor the availability and the idle state. You can associate it with an RUM agent. Click on Add Monitor, and you will be able to add it. To monitor it, you can go visit the monitors page, and under monitors, you will have Real User Monitor. Click on Real User Monitor. Here, you will have a general summary about the Real User Monitor. Over here, you have the name, monitor information, and here you will be able to see the script in which you'll have to copy it in your web page or application, like I mentioned before. After copying it, you'll be able to monitor it after the applications manager starts polling the metrics. The summary tab gives you a general summary about the application where you can see the aptX code based on the aptX time that we mentioned. You can also see this worldview in the summary report, the summary of response times, page views, and throughput. In geography, you can see the world map view of the aptX score, the average response time, the page views, and the errors. In ISP, you'll be able to view the data about the internet service providers that are being used. And in browser, you'll be able to monitor the browser types which the end user uses to access the application or the web page. Here you have the browser split up, usage split up, and the browsers which are being used by the end users. Under device type, you'll be able to come to a conclusion on which device is being mostly used by the end users to access your application. Here you have the top viewport, top connection type, and device memory. Under web pages, you'll see the web transactions being done on the web page. In user sessions, you'll see how many users have been accessing your web page or web application, where you'll get a detailed information about the browser type, device type, country, pages navigated being over here. Under resources, you'll have what type of resources being used in your web page and the time taken for it to respond, along with the resource size of it. The first party resources are the resources being used in your web page. The third party is the ones which you have called in your web page. And also you have the CDN resources listed here. When you enable the track AJAX calls, you will be able to view this part. Here you will be able to monitor the AJAX calls and the transactions over here. Under JavaScript errors, you will be able to monitor the errors which have been showing up in the end users page, along with the type, file, the page, the browser, and the affected users. You'll also have a errors versus affected users graph, which will give you an insight into how the errors are affecting the end users. Now that you've understood both RUM and synthetic transaction monitoring, let me tell you how they complement each other and provide great benefits when employed for your websites. So you can correlate your business with performance. Synthetic transaction monitoring can provide the performance data that will enable you to pinpoint problems with page load time or network bottlenecks. However, if you want to analyze exactly how the web performance impacts the business revenue, then you need more than synthetic performance metrics. Since real user monitoring is generated through real user traffic, it provides essential insight into real business metrics, such as conversion rates, which can then be correlated with the continuous performance metrics collected from synthetic testing. You can identify the problems before the active users arrive. No matter where the applications are hosted, problems are bound to occur. Synthetic monitoring is the most effective solution to identify a configuration problem caused by an off-hours maintenance change so that it can be fixed before users begin using your application service in the early morning hours. On the other hand, real user monitoring would be the most helpful tool to measure the application responsiveness for each and every live user during the peak hours. Third one is troubleshooting outages. Combining the synthetic and the RUM data, you can make troubleshooting quicker and easier. When synthetic tests fail or trigger an alert, data gathered from RUM will show you the real-time impact on end-user experience. Similarly, if RUM data reveals a performance anomaly, then you can use synthetic transaction monitoring to replicate the issue by exercising the same transaction across a number of internet service providers, and geographical locations. Collecting the data in this way allows you to triangulate from various vantage points to identify the root cause that may lie in the data path between the end users and your application service. Real user monitoring and synthetic transaction monitoring can be simultaneously used to verify and deep dive into performance issues. Now let's move on to the final part of today's session, how to optimize a web page performance and maintain brand reputation. So what is a web page analyzer and why do you need it? Synthetic transaction monitoring and real user monitoring gives you insights into the website performance from an end user's perspective. Applications Manager's Web Page Analyzer monitoring service enables you to perform web page analysis, keep track of your web pages, and optimize web page performance using page speed rules and suggestions. It can help you identify what exactly is slowing your websites down. PageSites Insights is an online tool which helps in identifying the performance best practices on any given website, provides suggestions on a web page's optimizations, and may suggest overall ideas of how to make a website faster. So Applications Manager's Web Page Analyzer tracks and provides insights into various key metrics to help you effectively manage your web pages. During each poll, Applications Manager loads the web page in the Firefox browser in a cache-less state and captures real-time data of various performance metrics of the web page. You can use it to analyze the response time and domain summary. You can access the page speed scores and get suggestions based on it. You can also request tracking with waterfall chart. So what is a waterfall chart is, so when a web page renders, it might have various components that constitute the page, such as CSS, JS, images, etc. Web Page Analyzer tracks the transactions that take place when all these components load. The waterfall chart gives you a visual representation of the critical metrics related to each transaction. This helps you understand which components load slowly and why. This way, you can prevent the website downtime and slowness and help the website perform optimally. You can also manage your SSL certificates efficiently with the help of a web page analyzer. To add a web page analyzer, go to New Monitor and Add New Monitor. And under Add New Monitor, click on Web Page Analyzer. Fill in all the details such as display name, the web page URL, the page load timeout, wait after load, the HTTP method, headers, username, password if you have any, the domains to block, and you can also add a content check for response such as, and if it needs to contain a particular word, and it should not contain a particular word. You can do a sensitive keyword search as well. If you want, you can enable SSL certificate monitoring, where you need to provide the domain, port, and the SSL version. You also need to select whether you need a proxy or not, or if you want to ignore an SSL certificate name mismatch error, you can do so as well. Test the credentials, and after testing the credential, add monitor. After adding the monitor, it will be available in the monitors tab. And under monitor, you can find it in the web page analyzer option. Click on web page analyzer. Here you will be able to see the web page summary along with the response time summary and domain summary. Under the response time summary, you will see the DNS time, the connection time, the first byte time, start render, document complete, and page load time. Unlike the plain website monitoring feature, where you can only monitor the DNS time, connection time, first byte time, and last byte time. You can also monitor the start render time, the document complete time, and the page load time here. You'll also have a domain summary, which will not be provided in the website monitoring feature. In the domain summary, you will see how many requests have been processed by a particular domain, the IP address of the same, the size of each domain, the response time, and the throughput of the domain. Under network log, you will be able to see the waterfall chart. Here, you'll be able to filter it based on the content types such as HTML or CSS, etc. And you can see how the time taken for each component to load in the page and the status code of the same, along with the size. So you will be able to make an informed decision regarding the components being used. You'll also have the resource details tab, where you can see the request summary. And if you have chosen to associate the RUM monitor, you will be able to view the screenshots along with the resource size and resource count as well. Under page speed insights, you can see the page speed code given. And based on that, you will have suggestions. So you'll see which component is slowing your page down or which is causing somewhat of a latency problem. So since the score of this element is 97, when you click on it, you'll be able to see the suggestions given based on which component is slowing it down. So here, if you could enable or take the suggestion and implement it, you will be able to get a better page speed score. So that is it about today's session. Before we see a quick recap of today's session, please take a few minutes to answer the poll. Last week, we talked about the application performance monitoring feature, which is why it is not covered today. And this week, we saw how you can monitor the individual URLs for a better user experience, how you can analyze the issues faced in critical workflows. In part 2, we saw how you can leverage synthetic transaction monitoring to go beyond app-only view. And we also saw how you can understand the real user experiences with the help of real user monitoring. And finally, we saw how you can optimize web page with the help of a web page analyzer. Thank you.